Right, what we're going to do with this machine is we're going to show you how to use this machine for rip cutting and for square cutting. So, your tutor, your foreman, customer comes to you and they want a piece of sheet material cut into a certain size. You can guarantee that the sheet material will be damaged on all 4 edges. You now have got to make a quality product out of something that's got damaged. So what I'm going to show you is how we can get a quality piece of product out of a damaged board by using the ripping operation and then the squaring off operation. Now you notice the size of the machine has changed, you'll notice the configuration has changed, you'll notice the guard has changed. This is now the dimension saw. Dimension saw, by definition, finishes work to a set dimension. It's a smaller blade, but the blade has got more teeth. The more teeth, the finer the cut, the better the quality. So this is a finishing saw, not a rough cutting saw. So before we start playing with some serious stuff, we'll isolate the machine so we can show how the crown guard is adjusted. And there's a lever on the top. You can see now the blade is exposed. We've got the blade, we've got the riving knife. So everything that we've discussed and we've learnt so far is already on this machine. The pure regulations state these things must be in place. So to set the guard setting is simplistic itself. You just lower the guard via the lever down to the timber as close as practically possible. You encompass the whole blade, keeping you safe. So you've got your piece of material, you've got your crown guard set. What do? Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to remove the damage from one of the edges to give us a nice, clean, crisp edge. There's no sizes involved with this as of yet, because all we're doing is removing the damage. So I've moved the fence over. I'm now lining it up with the saw blade so I can take a small slice off. The fence is adjusted, the locking hand wheel locks it in place, and all we're doing is taking a small slicing cut off the edge of the board. We can now turn the machine on. Now, because this machine is an older machine, it hasn't got an electric brake fitted as standard. It's been added to. So the electric brake for this machine is the yellow box that's on the side of the machine. Now if we press the button, there's only one button, you'll hear the click, the machine is now live. So again, for the sake of the demonstration, we won't use the extraction because of the noise element, but we will wear our eye protection and our ears, and we'll just take a slice off one edge. So we've taken a slice off the edge. That edge now is free from defects. We can now turn the board around so we can now set the size of the material that we want. Again, we can lift the crown guard up, not forgetting to isolate, and we can physically measure the distance that we require from the fence to the inside edge of the saw blade. So we'll just set this at a mandatory size of 290. We're now going to clean off the second edge. Again, we'll set the crown guard as close as practically possible. Again, we'll turn the isolator on, so we've got power. Blue button. Eyes and ears, again as a must. You'll notice that the saw does stop within the recommended time of 10 seconds, and that's illustrated by the flashing strobe. If you were to count the pulses of the strobe, you're able to count the 10 seconds. So we've now machined the board parallel and clean on both the two sides. So we've got rid of the damage that we've got there. Now we need to cross cut to remove the damage on the ends. So if we remember, the distance between the riving knife and the back of the saw table is 1.2 metres. That's when we're ripping. We now need to cross cut, which is a different ball game. So for cross cutting, we need to lower the table at the rear of the machine. Now the question is asked, well, if it's good for one, why isn't it good for the other? If you're cross cutting, you never leave this position. You stand here all the time. Whereas if you're ripping, you might rip down there, you might walk around to the back of the machine and then take off at the same time. So using this system, you're safe because you're actually static all the time. So the next thing we need to look at is what jigs and aids do we need to make sure that the machine is safe. So we'll isolate it, and what I've got here is a cross-cutting fence. Now, the fence sits into a dovetail slot. It then is fixed down. So it then becomes a fixed part of the machine. Underneath the machine there's a small handle. If we pull the handle down and twist it through 90 degrees, the whole table then is allowed to move. So we can then do our cross-cut work. Now, the cross-cut fence has got a protractor on it, so you can do any angles. So if I just undo the handle, you can see that it does move and do angles. 45 degrees, 60 degrees, 70 degrees, whatever you want. However, never assume that the indicators and the calibrations are accurate. So what we're going to do now is we're going to show you how you can just check to make sure that this fence is at 90 degrees to the saw blade. So the machine is isolated. I can lift up the crown guard, and using a rather large square, all the squares are currently available, this large square can be placed against the fence. We can move the bed forward. We can then move the square against the saw blade, and we can now pivot and line the two up together. So we now know that this is at 90 degrees to that. If there's a gap between the blade and the square, you know it's not square. If the two are touching, you know it's square. And it's as simple as that. So lock the handle down. Obviously, when you're using any sort of tooling, you must make sure that the beds are clear. Don't be tempted in leaving your spanners, your screwdrivers, or anything else on the machine. That's grey, that's grey. Visually, you can lose them. So make sure you remove them from the machine. So that's now put to one side. The machine now is good to go. We know that's square, that's pinched up nice and tight. We'll reset the crown guard as close as practically possible. We can move the material now so that we can cross cut. Always make sure though that the back of the fence and the table is clean. If you get bits of chippings or shavings in there, you won't get a true cut. So that's nice and neat and clean. We can line this up to the size that we require. Remember, we're just cleaning off the edge, so size isn't important. So again, we'll see if we can fire the machine up. So again, no extraction. We'll put our eyes on, we'll put our ears on, and we're just trimming the end off just to get rid of the damage.